without further ado, let's get to that, Greg. So let's set the scene here, right? We've known that the Fallout show is coming for a couple of years now. We're living in what many are referring to as the golden age of video game adaptations, and we have now arrived at Fallout, which is one of the biggest video game IP. Honestly, I'm surprised that we didn't get one earlier, given some of the things that have been turned into movies and television shows at this point. It's a live action show at Prime Video, made by Filter Films. There are folks that worked on Westworld behind it. It was produced in association with Bethesda. Todd Howard is credited as an executive producer on the show. He talked a lot about how much attention went into the detail, Fallout, getting that world right. 8 episodes long. Stars Ella Purnell, who I loved in Yellow Jackets. She plays Lucy, who I would say is the protagonist of this show. She's a vault dweller, Vault 33 to be exact. Walton Goggins is in this thing. He plays the Ghoul. It's like the villain of the show, which maybe the best performance in this entire show. He's excellent. But Greg, you are a big Fallout fan, the games, that is, as you're about to demonstrate here for our audience. I'd say Greg and Bill Lavoie are like our big Fallout fans on the Shacknews staff. I believe that's from New Vegas, right? That
Yeah.
down there. All right, great. Well, as somebody who owns a helmet from a Fallout video game, Greg, I imagine you probably had some decently high expectations for the show.
I do.
How did,
Oh, you
how
can
did-
still hear me in the mic. I probably sound
Yeah, you
terrible.
can. You sound like you're wearing a helmet.
No, I'll take it off and just put it.
Ugh. I wanted to wear it. No, this is this was a really cool helmet that I got at the Bethesda store for it was like on sale for like $20. So I was like,
Oh, wow.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
please. It lights
Yeah,
up.
no question.
No, I think it's cool because I think like me, a lot of my generation, like a lot of millennials, like their first Fallout game was 3. Because 1 and 2 were isometric games on the PC, and like I didn't have a PC that could play games growing up. And then you had, of course, like you're like, I think Tactics was one. Like they had some like spin-off ones that didn't really go anywhere. And then 3 was like, well, we're gonna redo the franchise, right? We're gonna have this be first person. It's gonna be done in the creation engine, and it really was like I think what introduced the world to Fallout from a more mainstream perspective. And then of course we got New Vegas, and then we got 4. And of course all the subsequent DLCs. And I think what just people fell in love with was like the world. It was so unique for that. It was a really unique world that you experienced. We've seen post-apocalyptic movies before and themes, but not to this effect, right? It has like themes of capitalism, and it's a Western, like it has all these crazy things going on. And like, let's not forget, like there's a lot of humor in this world as well, which just makes it just so interesting from a game perspective, right? That sort of 1950s aesthetic is very rare. You don't see it in games. The only other game I can think of is BioShock, which is more of a 1960s aesthetic, but still like very close, right? It's a very unique aesthetic you don't see a lot in games. And apparently they've been trying to make the TV show for decades, and it just was not clicking, and that's probably a good thing. And now we're finally getting an 8-episode series on Amazon Prime. If you know anything about Amazon Prime, they throw a lot of money at production. If you just look at the Lord of the Rings show, anything they do, they don't do small. Which, again, the production is just insane. Like, are we just going to talk about the review now? We're just going to go into it. You liked it, right, Donovan? You gave it a 9 out of 10 on Shacknews.
I did give it a 9 out of 10 on Shacknews, which I think might be the highest score I've given to a video game thing. I'm thinking of what I reviewed. I reviewed Mario, the Mario movie. I gave it an 8. I reviewed the Mortal Kombat movie. I gave that like a 7 or an 8. Halo was just like the first 2 episodes, so we didn't score that, but I guarantee you it would not have been anywhere near a 9. Yeah, I think this is the highest rated film or television thing I've reviewed for the website. Small pool of candidates, but it's got that distinction nonetheless. I thought the show was great, and I'm coming to somebody who I like Fallout. When it comes to Bethesda RPGs, I'm definitely an Elder Scrolls guy, hands down. I got into Fallout a little late. I always remember thinking Fallout 3 was really cool because in Fallout 3 it's set in like DC and you go to like Maryland and stuff, and I live in Maryland. I thought it was cool that like the video game is set in that area, and then I found out Bethesda is in Maryland. I'm like, oh, it makes sense then. We're all like in the same backyard here. But going into the show, I had high expectations just because the talent that was involved. Like I mentioned, you got folks from Westworld involved in this. Amazon doesn't really hold any punches when it comes to funding these projects. So I was expecting this to be pretty good. Plus, the bar's just been raised over the last few years when it comes to video game adaptations. You know, we do live in a post The Last of Us world and the Super Mario Brothers movie, and it feels like every year we're getting the latest great video game adaptation, whether it's a show or a movie. And I thought this show was dope. I think that one thing that hit me the hardest is just the world. The way they flesh out the world of Fallout in this television show is so good. I mentioned it in my written review on Shacknews.com. There are so many flashbacks where you see what the world was like before the bombs fell and the slow build up to that eventual nuclear disaster. And it's so fascinating and also so like chilling how like matter of fact it is, and everybody's just like, oh yeah, bombs, it's like it's gonna happen. Like everybody, it's not even a matter of like if, as they talk about, it's just when, which is like so darkly, not even comedic, but just like intriguing, I guess. Where we live in this world where like obviously like nuclear war is a threat in real life that people worry about, but the show obviously tensions have reached such a height that it's not even like about speculating, if anymore, it's just like, well, what's your family's plan, you know? So I thought diving into just like the effect on the human psyche, that was so interesting. And then you get to the actual wasteland, right? Where we're in the vault, and it's such a like sanitized experience. Lucy is like a smart woman, but she is incredibly naive because she only knows the vault. She's only lived in the vault. Her family and her family's ancestors have only lived in the vault because it's been a couple hundred years now since the bombs fell. And then when circumstances bring her out to the surface, and it's just that hard fish out of water where she's talking about like the rule of kindness and be polite as she's talking to like bounty hunters,
the golden rule.
Yeah, the golden rule, she calls it. I thought was hilarious. Maximus, who is kind of like the secondary protagonist in this, the soldier, the Brotherhood of Steel. I thought he was very funny. Again, another like fish out of water character where he's just been conditioned, despite the fact that he is a surface dweller, he's just so conditioned to what he's been experiencing as a soldier of the Brotherhood of Steel that he doesn't know about so many standard aspects of life. Like even Lucy's teaching him things.
Yeah, he's been
So
indoctrinated. Basically, it's a play
Yeah.
on. If you guys are familiar, the Brothers are play on like the military, the U.S. military, the military-industrial
Yeah.
complex, right? You know, it's you live and die for the military. It's your honor, it's your glory, that kind of stuff. Helldivers, it's Helldivers.
It's all he
Playing
knows.
Helldivers is the same thing, you know.
Yeah, that's all he knows, and they both have very separate goals, but ones that have them on intertwining paths. I thought they were both great in the show. I think that I want to give a shout out to there's an actor in the show that plays Lucy's brother who spends a lot of time like in the vault. You only see him; he's in most of the episodes, not all of them, but he's got like a running subplot throughout. I just want to give him a shout out because that actor is his name is Moises Arias, and Greg, he was a recurring antagonist on the show Hannah Montana on Disney Channel. When I was a kid, he played a character named Rico, and he was the son of like a really rich like business dude. So he like would boss around like the character that worked at his dad's shop. It was like this running bit. We think it is like this kid actor from Disney Channel. I don't see him pop up and stuff often, so I just thought it was funny that he was in the show. But I mean, everybody in the show brings their A game. I think Ella Purnell is so good at Lucy. She plays the naivete of that character great. She's an awesome actor. Walton Goggins, a veteran actor. I mean, this might be like one of his best roles. And this dude's been in like 40 movies. He is so good as the ghoul. So many memorable lines. Even in this trailer, there's one where like you see Lucy shoot someone like the dart, and he's like, no, that is a very small drop in a very large bucket of drugs. And it's just like every time he's on screen, he's saying something memorable. You talk about like charming villains, memorable villains. I say in my review that I think he's instantly iconic. He is. I knew he was going to be a good villain, but then seeing how much they shade in his character and his motivations and his backstory in this show, I was like, damn, this is how you create a compelling villain in television. Is a masterclass, I think, in that regard. Another thing is production. You're a big practical guy, Greg. There's the vaults, the costumes, the power armor you were a big fan of. It all looks so authentic.
Dude, yeah, the power armor specifically, it was made out of, it's a foam cage suit, and like it looks actually phenomenal. And they spent a lot of money designing that. Like there's a lot of money and time. Like that just isn't done in the garage in a week. Like there are tests and tests and tests and tests, and it's got to be practical. It has to be able to move. It has to be able to do this, right? And as far as I can tell, I have not seen a CGI shot yet with the suit. And I think that's incredibly important because I feel like modern filmmaking especially crutch on the CGI elements so much, especially like in big fantastical worlds, right? Like I liked the production of D&D, but there was a lot of CGI garbage in that. Like I call it CGI garbage. It's not garbage, but you know, I like seeing something real and tangible on screen. I think it adds to the groundedness of the world. It adds to your believability when you realize that's a real thing and not some CGI thing just superimposed. That's not to say that they don't use CGI. There is CGI used in the film, but it's used very seldomly. And like one of the things I want to say about the review is, I applaud I applaud the movie for having so much self-control, right? Like this is a world where such a fantastical, crazy, off the hinges wall. It's really easy to be like, okay, in this scene we're gonna have 50 super mutants charge this thing, and there's gonna be this big fight. But they don't do any of that. It's very grounded and it moves very slow. And it's been so long since I've seen like a video game of this caliber do that, because usually you'd get a ton of this just a ton of these Marvel-esque Star Wars moments, right? These giant battles that just need a bunch of CGIs on screen, but they use sweat every pixel, something Todd Howard has said, right? Sweat every pixel. They get so much value out of the sets, they get so much value out of the practical effects. They go slow and hold your hand through this world to explain how it works. And it all come together. And I've seen episodes 1 through 7. I'm waiting on 8. Because I can only watch it. It was kind of disappointing that like it was limited to 720p in the screeners, and I didn't have a subtitle option, which was even worse. So I had to really pay attention because it was a little blurry. Because I guess they do that for piracy reasons. So I haven't seen the whole 8 episodes yet. I've only seen episodes 1 through 7, but it just does such a good job at slowly introducing you to this world. Here's how this works, and there's all these little hints and clues that come back to other plot points. Like nothing is wasted, right? A good example is Ghostbusters, right? There's those stupid mini puffs in the movie that serve no purpose. They're just there. They're fanfare. They're sell toy marketing tool. I hate that. I want stuff to have a purpose. There's nothing in this movie that goes to waste. Everything has something that ties into something, either world building or into a subplot or whatever. Like it's great, and they don't overuse any of it, right? Like they get a lot of mileage out of the suit, but they don't overuse it. They get a lot of mileage out of the Cogsworth robot. They don't overuse it, and it's just the pacing of it. And I think some younger viewers might not like it because, you know, they want to watch Power Suit go burr, you know what I mean, like constantly, or they want to watch plasma rifles go off or something like that. But everything about it just works. And if you're familiar, Donovan, actually a lot of this stuff comes from the 70s. There's a movie called A Boy and His Dog. Have you ever seen that film?
No, but they do reference it in here.
Yeah, so it's basically, if you've played a Fallout game in your entire life, if you watch this movie, this is where those people who made that game like drew inspiration from. It's a post-apocalyptic future about, you know, a nuclear torn wasteland, about a boy and his dog who can communicate with telepathically because of mutations. And it's a very dark, somber, low budget late 70s movie, and it's very weird. It's a very weird movie, but like this is where the roots of Fallout and Wasteland started, was in that film, right? And in novelizations too, but like is one of the major inspirations for the series. And I see a lot of that movie in this, right, in terms of how it's shot. And we talk about how it's shot. Oh my god, like there's so many movies I watch and the editing is like so, like it's so clippy, like you can't stay on a shot for longer than a second without cutting to something else. And it's just like, Jesus, like there's so many long pan shots, long wide shots, establishing shots. Like they take their time in each, there's always something in each frame. Like it's one of those things where they really took their time to make sure everything was important, and they didn't just rush a quick fight scene with a bunch of quick cuts, which is like what happens all the time. And I think it's just a matter of having a platform like Prime and wanting to tell a story and wanting to do it well enough and different enough, and something that has people been wanting for decades. You know, since Fallout 3, people have been wanting a show. Probably Fallout 2. You know what I mean? This is such an interesting world. Costume design is fantastic. I want one of those vault suits. Like we talk about world
That's gonna
building.
be a big Halloween costume this year. I'm calling that now. You're gonna see a lot of Vault Dwellers this Halloween.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I ordered the Pip-Boy off their website, the one that the Wand Company was commissioned to make. They made
a working Pip-Boy for the show.
Yeah, they made hero Pip-Boys for the show
that
actually functioned, that actually worked, because that's important, right? Like some of it is like is animated post, but a lot of it is screens that through the camera. You know what I mean? Which is like almost like a lost art at this point. They always want to superimpose something. But like you said, it follows the three characters. Lucy's, it's all different perspectives, right? You have the eager, wide-eyed, you know, fish out of water protagonist, which is Lucy, who's learning about this world. You have the indoctrinated soldier, who's also learning about the world. And then, of course, you have probably the most interesting character is the ghoul, Cooper, who's where did he come from? What is he doing? Like, what happened to him? Like, this is all stuff you follow, right? And it also has like those heavy Westerns never left. They just got weird, you know, like look at Star Wars is a Western. Evolved. Yeah.
Mandalorian, yeah. Fallout.
Mandalorian's a Western. This is a Western.
If
you like, it's wild, right? It's absolutely wild. It's crazy how like that core concept just kind of warped, and like, but it still has the same values. And like, there are a lot of scenes, especially with the ghoul, that scream like if you're fans of John Wayne Westerns or old 1950s Westerns, like they're dead on. Not just in the movies, not just in the movies that take place in the world, but the scenes with the ghoul and these other characters that sit down in a saloon and have a conversation. It brings a very Tarantino-esque, like, you know, with like the great tension just by having two people talking a little bit. You know, there's a lot of talking. Like, I was pleasantly surprised how much talking there is in this film, instead of just like, you know, one fight scene after the next or one engagement after the next. They really there's action where there needs to be action, right? And it's not an overabundance, it's not an underabundance, but it fits where it is. And I think that's a point that I think a lot of modern filmmakers miss, is the story should come first, always. Not the action sequences, not the visual effects, you know what I mean? The story. And like, the story is definitely at the forefront, for sure.
I mean, you talk about Tarantino-esque. That violence is Tarantino-esque, because this show is hyper violent. I was watching that first episode, and when we get our first like action sequence, I was like, holy shit. Obviously, Fallout is a rated M video game. It's violent. People get their head shot off and shit in the video games. But the show does not pull any punches on some of the violence. There are some there's some creative ways that they get blood and guts out of people's body in this show. And there are a couple scenes where I'm like, oh, I had to like look away. I think it's effective. It presents a great like juxtaposition from the like very sanitized and peaceful vault life to when you're on the surface and everybody's just literally ripping each other apart. I thought that was very effective. I think that it was such an excellent choice to make this an original story within the Fallout universe, because they really get the best of both worlds, right? Where you have all your iconography, you got the Pip-Boy, you got the power armor, you got the Vault Tech suits and whatnot, you got your Nuka-Colas in there, but at the same time, they're not just doing Fallout 4 but as a TV show, or Fallout 3 as a TV show, or New Vegas as a TV show. It's an original story. It's set primarily like in California, or what was California before the bombs dropped. And you're getting just this new perspective on the franchise as a whole. And there are some swings they take at like the mythos of Fallout in like the whole overarching story and idea.
I see where this is going. Okay. I haven't seen the last episode, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Which is they've never said how that works in the game. So they do some
interesting stuff in here. I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay. I was like, we're having some fun with this. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was just says Pip-Boys look like the most uncomfortable thing to wear. I mean, they look like they weigh like 30 pounds. Especially in the show, they look extremely heavy.
Yeah, but they do so much, like, though. They have a flashlight, they're a Geiger counter, they keep track of your health. Like, they track your health. Like, they do so much stuff. It's very crazy how much stuff it does. They can track things. Like, they do a ton of... It's like the ultimate utility tool, much like a smartphone. But it does more... I would say it does more than a smartphone.
Also a lot sturdier. I'm glad you mentioned, like, the Geiger counter. Something else the show does that's really cool is great sound design. Especially with items from the game, like... You hear a character use a stim pack, and it's that same like pressurized sound you hear in the video games when you pop a stim pack, or even just like the slow turning of the vaults, or the radiation. There's a scene where like somebody's poisoned with radiation, and it's that weird that crackling sound you can hear.
Geiger counter sound, yeah.
Yeah, all great attention to detail all around there.
And it's never, I would say, it's never over the top in terms of like. The stuff that's in there, like, is accented to other things, right? Like, it's great to have the cameos. It's good to see the Nuka-Cola bottles, right? Like, but like, they're never the star, right? The characters are the star, and everything else is just an accent of the world building. And that's important, right? Like, we don't, like, as much as I love proton packs, I don't think I need like a 20-minute segment explaining it how it works. Like, you just put them in the film, right? And people know what it is. Like, and they've done that. There's a ton of stuff in the background that they add in, you know, little signage items that are one-to-one to the game, but they're not distracting. And that's the big thing I think about video games when you're basing something, is it can become massively distracting to throw all these things in because you want to include them all to make the fans happy. And like the director even said, one of the directors said, like, he's not making it for the fans. Could have fooled me because he pretty much nailed everything in the film. But I think what he meant by that was that, like, he's not shoehorning in stupid stuff just for the sake of putting it in because it was in the games. You know, the focus is the 3 characters and the world, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we can kind of get into closing thoughts here. Something I do think is worth mentioning is that the show has not officially been renewed for a 2nd season yet, but there was a story that came out this week that they received like some tax credit incentive to film in California for their next season, because they didn't shoot there for the 1st season, but it looks like they will for a 2nd season. So it seems all but confirmed the 2nd season is probably going to happen. Show's got a great early reaction from the critics. It's releasing tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific. I have a good feeling that the show's going to make a lot of noise on the internet, and it'll probably get renewed for season 2 sooner rather than later. As somebody who's seen the show, I'm looking forward to what a season 2 would do, because boy, it's like by the end of season 1, it's like we've given you a nice little taste of the story. We spent a lot of time world building, but like, let's go crazy now, which is crazy to say because the show's already crazy as hell. But by the end of that 1st season, it's like, all right, let's get really nuts now. So I'm very excited to see what they do in the future here. I would be like, oh, what am I going to rate this? But I already reviewed it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Thought it was excellent. This is going to be one of my favorite TV shows of the year.
I agree with that 9 out of 10 too, Donovan. I read your review, good review. All the like the trope stuff is tough because, you know, like, film that's been around for so long. Like, how do you avoid those tropes? And it's really hard not to. And the fish out of water is one of the most common tropes that this thing uses. But you know what? That's so minor. Like, it's a very minor thing. Like, you can only do so many things differently, right? For the 100 years you've been making films, and so, but I think it does it very well, and it also has, like you said, its own voice, not just in the games, but like it creates its own original story. I especially like how there's a great line in the trailer that says, like, everyone wants to save the world, but they all disagree on how, and that's exactly what's happening in the world of Fallout. Like, there's all these factions, and they all think that they're doing the best for everybody, right? They genuinely believe that. So, like, there's these huge areas of gray that just are everywhere, and they all genuinely believe that they're doing the best that they can for everybody else. Like, you know, it's very interesting. Does anyone have any questions? We're not allowed to talk about certain things, but if anyone has any questions to chat about the show, if you have any questions or comments, like, let us know. We'll be happy to answer them. But I agree, 9 out of 10. It's top 3 best video game adaptations I've ever seen. It moved up on my list for Fallout. It's not in any particular order. I think it's Mortal Kombat 93, Super Mario Brothers movie, and Fallout. Like, they're understanding, like, video games can tell serious stories, and they don't have to be these ridiculous cartoony things, which Fallout can certainly be that way. There was a show called Nuka Break. If you've ever seen it, I highly recommend it. And it also captures the tone of Fallout, but it does it in a less dramatic, more lighthearted way, which still fits the world. It can go either way. But the fact that they were able to balance both, and, like, there's humor in it, but not too much humor, right? That's, like, the dangerous thing. Like, when you have too much humor in it, it can distract. But everything is done so painstakingly, so carefully, like, you can just tell. There will be so many memes born out of this. There's gonna be Donovan. Someone might want to check on him. Is he okay? I was on the floor with that. Sorry.
There are gonna be a lot of memes out of this. I do want to answer AP Wizard in the chat said, how's the practical versus special effects balance? Very good. A lot of practical. There is also a lot of digital, and I think that most of it looks good. There is a group of characters you meet that all have, like, a weird, like, thing about them, and it's all like it's like a digital effect that's on all these characters, and it looks weird. It feels like it's supposed to look weird, but I don't know. Every time they were on screen, I was like, I feel like I'm watching, like, a low budget movie from the 2000s.
Oh, the eye,
yeah,
the eye guy who's in the trailers. Yeah, he looked a little off. But I mean, how do you do that practical so the actor can see?
I mean, yeah, I know. So I mean, it's, you know, it's hit or miss, but, like, the ghoul, right? Walton Goggins, that prosthetic makeup they have on him to turn him into the ghoul is like excellent. He looks great as
I would
that
feel it's like,
character.
yeah, I would say, I don't know if you'd agree with this time, I'd say 70-30 practical, 30% digital. I feel at all the
That
all the
feels right.
digital stuff is used to enhance the physical stuff, right? The power armor is all practical. Like they did not, I have not seen it. See, even when it flies, like there is no. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's on a green screen, like rigged. Like there is, like they did not want to CGI that suit. The ghoul, he has his nose is removed. I think behind the scenes I've seen like green, so they removed the nose, but like
Oh,
all
okay,
that's
yeah.
real makeup. Most of the sets are real. I don't know if they used the Unreal technology thing in this, but it was very hard to
Think so.
tell what was green screen if they did use green screen. A lot of the wide shots are location shots, but then they just do like a digital back painting of like downtown LA or something like that. So like the locations that they walk by are real locations in the desert. Like they're abandoned structures. Like they went and they scouted real buildings that existed and they filmed around that. And there's all these great drone pan shots and stuff, like just establishing this world. I think that's a real Air Force base too that they used, like like maybe an old Air Force base. But you can like it's painstakingly so careful in everything it wants to use, which is it's great. And you get the right amount of story, the right amount of action, the right amount of mystery. I mean, I haven't watched the final episode yet. I still do not know, for those of you who understand like
What's
the vaults
going
or
on?
experiments, I do not know what the experiments are on some of these vaults. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to like read between the lines and I still don't know what it is. And if they can keep a Fallout fan like me guessing, then you'll be hooked as well.
Yeah, I think they do a good job at kind of holding those cards close to their chest as the season goes on. But great show. That's our review of season 1 of Fallout. Again, very grateful that we got the chance to review that. That was pretty cool to get early access to it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I look forward to seeing more of that universe in the future because I'm very confident that we will see it.